Okay, folks, we're back at it again. Here at Something Copious, Something Capacious, Something Cojunga, we like to pride ourselves in being able to talk about many things. Wouldn't you agree, Christopher?
Absolutely.
And one of the things, actually the only thing we're going to talk about today, really, is the video game Control, which is my favorite video game ever for a lot of reasons. And it takes a lot to say that because beforehand it was BioShock Infinite, and that held the seat for a long time. It took a lot to dethrone BioShock Infinite, and I didn't even have that game to begin with as the hands down favorite, because it took a lot to get me to play that. I was actually recommended that by somebody I used to work with when I was out at Meyer. Another good friend of mine. His name's Mark. Talk about him every once in a while, probably. And and he recommended it to me. And I'm not big into surprises, so he basically spoiled the entirety of BioShock Infinite for me before I played it. And I was like, what are you talking about? What you're explaining to me makes no sense. I just have to play this so I can understand what it is you're saying because I'm so confused. And I played the game and I'm still confused, but it's very good. I digress. So we are going to talk about this little indie hit right here, Control. Very cool. Special edition, Ultimate edition, let me be correct. And it came out back in the fall of 2019, and it was recommended to me by another friend of mine who said, hey, this game's coming out. Here's the first trailer. It's made by the same people that made Max Payne. Bonus. All right, I can live with that. He recommended Max Payne to me. I always got a lot of my video game recommendations from this friend of mine. His name's John. And well, what his name is doesn't matter, but just so you would understand, if he ever comes up in future videos, his name's John, and he recommended Control. And so I went out and bought it on launch day because that's how serious I used to take these things. And and I don't know why I didn't immediately put it in the console and get it started the day I bought it. It actually sat there for a good long time on the shelf, just kind of collecting dust. Just it looked pretty, and I let it go at that. Well, then I want to say it was around the same time. COVID started shutting everything down, and we at the warehouse. Chris knows what I'm talking about. We at the warehouse were all kind of starting to get the sniffles, get the coughs. And I was actually the first person who went out on what we called co-vacation, even though I didn't have COVID. Nevertheless, I was sick with the flu for about a month before I finally went to my supervisor and I was like, hey, I think I need to go to the doctor because I've been in here coughing, wheezing, hacking, sniffing, snotting, snarting, the whole 9 yards for almost a month now. I'm going to go to the doctor. Well, the doctor told me I had the flu and that I needed to self quarantine. And this is a long winded way of saying that eventually I had the opportunity, because I was on self quarantine, to sit down and start playing Control. And I was amazed almost out the gate. And as I start playing the game, it's a little confusing. You're trying to suss out what's going on and who Jesse Faden is, and all these weird things that are going on around her. And my initial impressions were that because everything seemed so strange and the environment was constantly shifting around you, the oldest house is just a weird place. I'm thinking, okay, maybe she's an unreliable narrator and you can't trust what's playing out in front of you to be the actual truth, because it's just kind of this Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole journey, and maybe Jesse's not all there. Maybe these aren't the facts. But as I got further and further in, I realized that wasn't the case, and I was so impressed by the way the story plays out narratively, because it doesn't tell you a lot of things. It doesn't just give you information, right? You have to kind of go out and find that information in the case files and the documents that are just lying everywhere for you to collect and then read later. It's like, oh, well, A, B, and C. No wonder D happened, So I think that was an interesting storytelling apparatus, whereas most games just, they're just heavy-handed exposition all the time. Metal Gear Solid is very guilty of heavy-handed exposition. Every character gets a 9-hour speech on the whole conspiracy at play. And not a lot of times in Control is it just massive, heavy-handed exposition and speeches. So to find a game that I could enjoy and play, not only play once, in the 2020 calendar, I beat 100% completed Control at least 12 times. And that game, if you do it honestly, what are you laughing at me for?
That's a lot of times to play a game in 1 year.
That's how great it is. I will stand on Control. I will tell everybody I know, everybody who even modestly cares about my opinion on anything, I will recommend Control. I've been trying to get you to play Control forever.
Yeah.
Have I not?
Oh, you have. Absolutely.
We're friends. Control. We're almost friends. Control. I don't even know you. Control. And
I know.
now you know. You didn't actually play it, but we did a sit through where you watched while I played it.
Right. I played like 2 missions, but yeah.
That's two well earned missions, because everything about that game is amazing, and I played it 12 times because even though there is not the new trend is New Game Plus, where you basically you can go back through the game and play it all over again with equipment, powers, weapons, skills, whatever. Already, the difficulty goes up a little bit just because you start out the game on an upswing, on a what's the word I'm looking here? You start with more in your favor than if you just started a game from scratch. So they try to up the difficulty to balance that system out a little bit. But even though there is no New Game Plus, or at least there wasn't, I don't know if it's in that update that they just dropped about a month or so ago, where they unlocked the frame rate and now you can play the game at 120. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God. We did that a few weeks ago, and the graphics were already insane. There is so much going on in this game visually all the time, and the environment is ever present and ever destructible and ever at your disposal to be ripped giant chunks out of the wall. When she uses launch, you can just rip chunks out of the wall and hurl them at enemies, and just everything in the environment is, even though it's destructible, in a lot of early games, when they wanted that destructible environment, everything was, it looked like it was made out of cardboard almost, or like it was just a flat panel that just went over like a house of cards. And Control, like, everything is solid.
Yeah.
Everything has texture. Everything is
crumbles as you break it.
Yeah. It has real physics. It has real weight behind it. It has real solidity. Like I believe that that chair I just grabbed is actually a chair and not something that just vaguely resembles a chair. Like everything feels real in the environment. The graphics are insane, and they were insane before they unlocked the frame rate, but now they're even more wild. And so it was hard for me to kind of and you play a game for the first time, you start learning all the different nuances, all the different, oh, I got to go here and do this, I got to go there and do that. And I kind of like games where there's a lot of exploring to do. Not even necessarily just because, oh well, this side mission means I got to go down this random ass hallway with 19 doors into other planes of existence in it. But and that's one of the things that I'm learning about games anymore, is that like if you really want to do them, you got to do the whole thing. Because I just beat Shadow of Tomb Raider for I finally got it beat. We were on it a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, and I finally got it beat. And if you don't really explore that game, if you just mainline it and do everything that is on the campaign path, you miss so much of that game not exploring, not raiding tombs, not adventuring. You miss so much of that game. And it's the same for God of War Ragnarok. If you just stick to the main campaign story beats, you miss almost 75%. There is 75, by my personal estimates, there is still 75% of the game you won't see if you don't stray off the beaten path and explore. And that is wild, and that is what Control is. The oldest house is an entire, not just world, an entire system of worlds out there to explore, and you miss so much of it if you just stick to the campaign trail. And that is an interesting tick in games that I've started to enjoy, that they're just go adventuring, go look around, go look in places you wouldn't think there was places.
Here, take the time to look at all the aspects of this game we've created.
Yeah. And there's things out there they don't even tell you, that you won't know unless you deep dive the fan, and it's like, oh well, what did you find? I found this entire hidden room with a clock in it that you have to mess with, and the only key to that puzzle is the song "Take Control," which is in the game. What do you call it? The band within the game is called the Old Gods of Asgard, and that is actually Poets of the Fall, the band, playing a band within the world of the game. And during the ashtray maze fight sequence, this song plays, and there's a part in it where the audio is like played backwards over the music, and whatever that audio actually is, it is a clue that gives you a numerical sequence to work that clock in this room, and it is a solution to this puzzle that you have to figure out to get a skills point, to get to another area, to have another fight. Like, it's a whole fucking thing. And it's wild that they went that deep, because I'd have never known it was there. I'd have never known what
How'd
the
you figure it out
solution.
then?
I want to know how the first guy figured it out.
How'd you figure it out?
I went on YouTube.
Fair.
Because I eventually got to that room. And I'm just staring at this clock, and I don't have the mental dexterity, patience, and emotional wherewithal to try to puzzle most of these puzzles out beyond 5 minutes. So I'm like, I can't figure this out. what is the solution here?
You're saying puzzles aren't your thing.
Puzzles are generally not my thing.
That's
Now,
fair.
I will try.
Yeah.
I will try to puzzle the puzzles out until my puzzler just can't puzzle no more.
All right, Dr. Seuss.
Anyway, let's not get away, because if I just start going down a whole Seussical path here, I'll never get away from it. But we are on a little bit of a time crunch, and I want to talk about control. So let's
All right, fair
let's
enough.
stay there.
Keep going.
I hate you for doing that, because I really just want to get on a whole Dr. Seuss thing.
That's for another episode.
Another episode. So what was I saying? The puzzle, the puzzle had a solution. I found that solution. I found that solution because I went on YouTube and I was, I Googled what is the solution to this clock puzzle in this room. I want to know how the first guy figured that out. Like what you're something occurs to you to play that song in reverse so you can understand what is said during the sequence of talking backwards in that song, and then somehow somebody is like, well, something in these words translates to a numerical sequence somehow. My brain just melted.
Can you play songs backwards in the game?
I don't think so.
Huh.
I know the song is out there for consumption. Take Control, the old gods of Asgard. But I wouldn't know how you just rewind the audio so that you can hear.
I thought you were saying it was an audio in the game, but I'm with you now. Oh, I'm with you.
Okay, all right. I don't know how to explain that any better. It's they play the song during the game during that fight, and you hear this weird audio during the song, and it's like, well, what is that? And it's somebody talking backwards.
Okay.
And so, somebody out there got a hold of the song and was like, well, I wonder what they're actually saying. How
A lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and what is the mind that it occurs to do this work?
Yeah.
Because most of the time I don't understand that. I like, why did you think to do this? So how a lot of people solve these puzzles, and some of them aren't that wild, but some of them are. And it's like, what made you think to do this? Because I would have never thought of that. Looking in that direction for a solution. It's not just Control that does this. There's endless games out there that do things like this. There's whole videos on YouTube that talk about the wildest puzzle solutions out there in games, and things the developers don't want you to find. Like I forget what game it is, but I know I watched a video where somebody basically modded the hell out of some game where they could just walk straight through walls after walls after walls after walls and across oceans, and they eventually got to the room. They eventually got to like an alley where there was a sign on there from the developer says, if you're reading this, that means you just broke the contract of the game or something like that. You just broke the code of the game, and now we get to sue you. Something wild like that.
All right.
I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was something like that. Like, if you're reading this, you shouldn't be here.
Right.
And stuff like that is how richly games can be built, and Control is full of things like that. Full of examples of how rich and how just incredibly built this game is. And all those things aside, the frenetic is a word that gets tossed around in a lot of game reviews that I read about it. Like when I started doing my research, because I try to do my research. I do a modest bit of research before I just assume and make an opinion. feel like I've figured out everything I need to say. All right, well, let's do some research. What did everybody else feel? What did everybody else find? Or what were some of the other opinions of the day? And somebody had, like when they did the E3 launch, or they let people demo the game. One of the Game Informer reviews kept calling the action of the game frenetic, which basically means that there's no hiding behind a wall and just staying put and trying to pop shot guys until everybody's down. Like, you got to stay moving, and you got to alternate between using the service weapon and using your uh use it what para utilitarian, whatever your powers in the game. You got to switch between using the service weapon and using your powers. Now, your service weapon will eventually run out of ammo, but it will refill after a couple seconds. Your the power gauge will run down, but it will refill. So, even if you ran out of ammo, even if you burn clean through your power gauge, I mean, it will refill, but you got to stay moving until the confrontation's over. You can't. It's not one of those games like Gears of War, the whole
Duck and cover.
duck and cover kind of thing,
Yeah.
the cover based action. It's not that,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that in Gears, but finding what Control had to offer was also very cool in its own way. The gameplay is stellar, and one of the things that I like about it is you can do so much of the oldest house before you get the ability to levitate, and just they don't want to call it flying because you can't properly fly, but you'll leap like 30 feet up in the air, or 100, 50, or whatever it actually is, and it'll allow you to reach areas you couldn't get to before, to explore areas you couldn't get to before, and just going back through the game after you've acquired all of your abilities and exploring again a second, a third, an 18th time, even on one playthrough, even before you said this game is absolutely kick-ass, I gotta play it again, which is what I did at least 12 times in a single year. And every time I would go through a second, a third, an 18th time and explore. And every single playthrough, I've managed to discover something I didn't the time previous. So the game really is a metaphor for the oldest house, because it's always changing on me, and there's always something new to discover. And I don't even know that it's impossible that the developers are just secretly just kind of adding something to the game every once in a while, just to see if people discover it. They're just like, let's change the code a little bit this week and see if somebody finds that case file we just left in the bathroom in the logistics division
Right.
that's hidden behind the toilet. Only you have to rip the toilet out of out of the wall to get to it. Stuff like that. And it's brilliance on a scale I've never seen before. Like, I think it's Sam Lake is the guy that created Control, and he's the guy that created Max Payne, and a lot of the other big Remedy games. And he is a visionary. Like, this guy created Control. He is a visionary. He did some crazy ass world building here, because the game actually takes place in the same universe as Alan Wake, and the two are, with Control, they were like, oh well, these two worlds are actually the same. And anyway, in Control, it's revealed that the mystery of Alan Wake is something that was investigated by the Bureau of Control. That is an altered world event. And that's amazing to me, that they went and they were like, well, here's a dot and here's a dot. Let's connect these two dots. let's make a whole boat out of all these connected dots out there. We're gonna make a whole franchise out of it. Now they did that Fire Break game that I never got around to playing, and I should, because I love Control, and it's just like this is in the world of Control, or technically, I mean, the chicken or the egg. I guess Alan Wake came first, but it wasn't until they made Control that they said, well, we want to connect this to Alan Wake. And it's like, well, I guess technically I tried to play Alan Wake a long time ago, but I didn't get past the first mission. I was just like, this doesn't seem like a thing for me.
Have you played it since?
I've started it.
The remastered?
Yeah, I started it, but I basically stopped at the same spot that I did originally, and I was like, But then they announced Alan Wake 2 after Control came out, and I was like, well, fuck, now that I understand how invested Control is in Alan Wake, and that Alan Wake 2 is apparently going to pay back some of that goodwill, I really want to play Alan Wake 2, which I still need to finish because I got a lot further there, but I got stuck. Like, I got stuck during one of the boss fights, and I haven't had the discipline to sit back down with it and try to go through it again.
You just beat Tomb Raider, right?
Yeah.
Looks like you got a little
Perfect
time.
Yeah. What's my next project?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to sit back down with Alan Wake 2, because there's your game with replay, because the game changes once you get to New Game Plus. Like, it will, like, you play the game once, the second time you get to New Game Plus, you play it on New Game Plus. I don't know if you just need to play it the once, but the ending of the game actually changes once you get to New Game Plus.
Okay.
And that is where your replay is. That is why I love games that have solid replay, that have, don't just do this game the once, do it on New Game Plus, because New Game Plus offers you nuggets, offers you gold, and I really enjoy games like that. And even though, at least at last play, I don't think Control has New Game Plus, it stands on its own anyway. There is I can't always articulate what that reason is, but there is a reason Control is my favorite game, and I will recommend it to anyone. Friends, loved ones, complete strangers, people I don't like. I will recommend it to everyone. Play it. It's the fan base has, and it kind of seemed like, even though it was Remedy, it kind of seemed like an indie game there for a second. Like, okay, it's Remedy, but Remedy hasn't done anything in a while, at least as I understood then. But they just come out of nowhere with this game Control, and the fan community has been crazy for it ever since, and the development team has stood by it ever since, because who goes back and says, we're going to unlock the frame rate? We are still sinking enough time and investment and energy into this game, enough polish, enough care. We're going to unlock the frame rate. And even then, once then, no bugs, no issues, perfection, chef's kiss. Who God of War Ragnarok is an amazing game, and I'm sure the development team cared. But as far as I know, they didn't unlock the frame rate on that game. Most games still sitting out there right now, PS5 titles, they still haven't unlocked frame rate. Control, Remedy, that development team, it's hard. It's hard for me to say you can do better than that. And I'm a console person. I do not play on PC, and that comes from a time when I was basically I started out on PC back in the early '90s, and every time a game came out that I wanted to play, it was always pushed beyond the abilities of the computer I had at the time. So I had to go out and get a new graphic card, or I had to go out and get something, this thing, the other thing, because the video games were moving faster than the technology was almost.
Right.
And maybe that's not entirely accurate, but that's what it seemed like, especially when I was 12 or 15 years old.
Right.
Well, then I got my hands on console, and it's like, okay, well, this, from the time it came out to the time they said, okay, the PS3 is getting ready to come out, my PS2 played every PS2 game. My PS3 played every PS3 game, and I had no issues with popping it in, and it did the thing it was supposed to do with the stuff it was supposed to do it with. And it's like now the technology is far enough that at least on computers, whether that's a laptop or whether that's your desktop, most of them can play the things that are coming out and can play the things that are coming out 6 months from now. But at a very formative stage in my gaming development, I learned that I didn't like trying to play things on computer, because a console is gonna do the thing it's designed to do, which is play those games. A computer might not play your games depending on how you built it. So that is why I will say console forever. Yeah, games look amazing on PC, gaming PCs. The frame rate ain't there. It's not locked like it is on consoles, but
Right.
if you don't build your gaming PC right and spend thousands of dollars, why bother? I do not have to go through that trouble to get a console that plays fine and plays everything that I need it for. Now, and that's would I love it if Xbox and PlayStation unlocked their libraries, and it's like, all right, everything that was on PlayStation PlayStation 1 to present day, it's all in the library. You can play it all. We unlock the readers, the disc readers in there, and they will play every disc from A to B. Would I love that? Yes, I would. Do I hope they'll do that someday? Yes, I do. But I
Well, I'm seeing a lot of rumors that the new Xbox that's supposed to be coming out is going to be like a Xbox computer hybrid.
yeah.
Because now you're going to be able to access your Steam library, your Epic Games library, and etc. I can't remember the whole list, but I mean that seems like a big change. Do you think that's going to come at a cost of having to update a graphics card, or do you think it's going to be capable of just playing any game I pop into it in the foreseeable future?
Well, the article you sent to me suggested that it was going to cost at least $1,000.
I was going to say like 1,300 or something like that.
If it is not capable of that out the gate, if I'm already spending $1,300 and it can't play everything, I gotta go out and buy a disk drive. I gotta go out and buy a graphics card. I gotta go out and add A, B, triangle, square, red, blue, and the three of diamonds to get this thing to do what I'm spending $1,300 on it for. I don't even want it.
Well, maybe not necessarily up front, but I'm saying like, you know, consoles will go 7, 8 years between generations.
Yeah.
Do you think that if it ended up getting to a point where it couldn't run the newest games, that you would? I mean, are you considering getting the new console no matter what?
I'm considering it because there are games that are not already readily available unless you get them through Steam, and Steam is not an app that you can stream games through on console.
Right.
If they opened up Steam and they said, "All right, we're just collapsing Steam, your whatever you have on Steam, we're just collapsing it into your existing gaming library on console, but you got to buy this new console to do that,"
Right.
then yeah, I'm stuck like everybody else is. I'm trusting the plumber to know how to fix my toilet at that point. And there's not a way around that, but I'm not willing to give up my hobbies, my comforts. I'm not willing to set that aside just within reason, just to prove a point that the developers are not going to give a I'm one man. The developers are not going to give a rat's ass that I am boycotting
Right.
the industry because I don't like what they're doing.
Right.
That's that's like me boycotting Nintendo. That's Nintendo doesn't give a shit what I think about Nintendo, but
Right.
for my money,
Well, just I could see it being one of those things. So you know how, generally speaking, like PlayStation does a Pro or something
yeah.
after the initial drop. A few years later, it'd be the same thing. Spend all this money to get this console, and then here in 4 years we'll make a new one with a more improved graphics card that's going to be able to play the games that are coming out from here on. Because if you don't have the upgraded console, then you'll only be able to play what's came out in the first few years.
Well, so far I've not seen, there's pro enhanced games like they still work on the 5, but if you can get the pro, they're going to run better.
Right.
But they will still run on the 5. Now, is it something I'm considering that one day once the pro comes down and you and I are making that YouTube money, or you're making that Spotify money, it's like, well, I can trade the 5 in, get a little bit of that cost knocked off, and the trade in credit, and the landfall of a pro will not be as nasty.
Right.
Yeah, I'd I'd consider biting that bullet just
Have that luxury.
have that luxury, but I I'd love to see that a lot of those, because I don't really like having eight or nine different systems. I like, one or two, and they play everything. That way I can get rid of, I can declutter my spaces, but you're stuck. So that, if the alternative is not being able to enjoy things, to not be able to go back and enjoy old games, just to again prove a point nobody's gonna see, then I guess I have to hang on to my PS2 and my PS3 and my OG Xbox for a little bit longer until they really open up their libraries. It's all tied into the licenses somehow.
Yeah. On who's going to get the biggest contract too.
How can we make this more profitable for us?
Well, that's why I speculated that the new generation, if they go with the computer hybrid, that it was going to be one of those things that they were going to send out an upgrade, because now, halfway through the generation, we've either A, forced you to buy the next console, or B, we're forcing you to buy a video card for your first console. Therefore, it's another sale to make towards somebody.
Well, they're
Sell
already
two consoles in a generation, basically.
they're already doing that with the pros as it is, because you have to buy a disk drive.
I was going to say, I haven't seen if a Pro was. I've only seen the discless ones.
Well, if they sell them diskless, but if you want it to have a disk drive, that is an added
Feature.
feature. That's an added expense. You have to buy the disk drive and then install it yourself if you want it to come with a disk drive.
I don't like it.
Well, I don't either, but that's why I said we're stuck. We're
Yeah.
at the mercy of the development team and the marketing people, because you're one. This the analogy I come up with. You're trusting you're trusting your plumber to know how to fix your toilet because we lay people, that is not our specialty. I can't just gaming tower with my bare hands just from scratch like I know what I'm doing.
So unfortunate too.
I mean, if we could all do that, we'd have we'd have the gaming developers by the balls. But right now they've got us by the balls,
Yeah.
and and that's a double edged sword because when they made Control, they had me by the balls, and I kind of liked the way it felt. There's a nice massage there, happy ending
That's right.
because I love Control, and so sidebar my personal reflections on the gaming industry and the state of the development systems that they have designed to make sure that we're spending every hard-earned penny on their product for diminishing returns sometimes. It I think they've made all these leaps that they have because they're at war with the buy sell trade shops. They have to find out a way to get that $75 back that they just lost because somebody threw Madden away 6 weeks after they bought it. And every year there is a Call of Duty. Every year there's an NBA 2K. And look at the quality of them most of the time. Call of Duty hasn't been. Black Ops Cold War was kind of an odd hit in a long sequence of being disappointments since Ghosts. And there's parts of Ghosts that are enjoyable, but generally I hate that game ends on a cliffhanger that's never going to have resolution. And there's lots of games that ended on cliffhangers that don't have resolution, but considering I played every single Call of Duty game that has a campaign, like Call of Duty Black Ops 4 doesn't have a campaign, so I didn't mess with it. But, all the ones that have a campaign, because I don't do multiplayer, I've played them all. I have an investment in that franchise. Other games, that end on cliffhangers that I've never touched because they're not my games. I don't really play side scrollers that came out on the Nintendo or the Super Nintendo or whatever. I'm into the shooters. I'm into the adventure games like Uncharted and Tomb Raider. The comic book games like Spider. I'm really excited for Insomniac's Wolverine game. It's going to come out next year, and I'm wondering how much of a wild evolution it's going to be on X-Men's Wolverine game that the movie tie-in game.
Right. I'm
'Cause
excited to see.
we tried to play that. I still want to finish it, but we tried to play that and it was like rubbing sand in my eyes. That's how bad the graphics.
I'm telling you, the TV was trying to refresh faster than the console
Oh
could send
yeah,
it.
that's the problem of playing on old stuff on new TVs. Your TV is just running the game faster than it was designed
Yeah.
to operate, which is why a lot of people are going to pawn shops looking for CRT TVs.
With is the AV cables?
Yeah,
Yeah. All mine still have it in them. I like it.
I'm guessing there has just been a renaissance in the pawn shop industry of hanging on to old stuff because what's old is new again, right?
Yeah.
Because when COVID shut everything down and people needed something to do to pass the time, they were going to the buy sell trade shops. They were buying all the old consoles. They were buying all the old games. Then they take them home and they're like, oh no, my TV doesn't have these weird AV jacks on the back of it that I apparently need to play this console with. So you either had to go out and buy one of those TVs or you had to buy the adapter, which doesn't adapt the it kind of messes with the relay, the signal relay
I've heard that
a little
before.
bit.
You got a delay in your like what actually takes place on the screen
Yeah,
from when you're
there's
pushing a button.
just a little bit of a delay. I mean, it's not like completely debilitating, or at least it hasn't been yet in my experience, but it is there just enough to be like, oh, so that's a thing I need to pay attention to. And so I with all that going on, I'm guessing that there's just been a boom in the pawn shop industry that to buy old stuff,
Yeah.
to go back and let bring in the systems and the TVs and the games that people used to line their trash cans with.
Yeah. Well, I know they don't have any tube TVs.
I don't know where you'd find them unless you're tracking them down on Facebook Marketplace or eBay
A
or.
lot of people are giving them away because you can't throw a TV in the trash can. Like the trash companies around here won't pick up a TV. You can't take it to the dump. So,
Well, out at the recycling center down there at the other end of Centennial, they apparently take the TVs.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Pops said he's gotten rid of a couple of TVs out there that way, and it's just like, oh well, I have a TV. Okay, well you're just gonna drive around building 4 right there. The gentleman will know
Okay.
what to do, or however it works. I've never actually been in there myself, but so it's
Control 2. Let's talk about Control 2 for a second. If there was ever to be a date that they decided to release it, is that a launch day purchase for you?
oh yeah, that's I guess my kids are going hungry for me because that's I will have Control 2 on launch day.
And there's been no talk of this yet, correct?
Yeah, I don't know how close we are. Basically, what is a development cycle anyway in the gaming industry, because they can say, hey, fall next year, then we get to that next fall, and they're like, yeah, well, we want to put out a polished, perfect product, so we're going to give the development team the time they need. In some cases, that seems to be what they say, why the game hasn't released yet, and yet still, most of the time, as soon as it releases, you get 3 months worth of updates because bug, glitch, crapshoot, bug, glitch, crapshoot. So
Something tells me that's how a particular game coming out next year is going to be.
eh, and then there's games that that they promote at E3 or whatever gaming expo, and they're like, hey, this is on the horizon, like that Perfect Dark remake that was, they said something about it like 2 or 3 years ago now, and we're nowhere closer. There was going to be a Wonder Woman game that was built with like Middle Earth Shadows of War style gameplay, but Monolith went under, so they canceled that game. And so many games that are like, okay, here's this proof of concept teaser for it, and then people go out of business, people move on to other projects, the market stalls. Whatever it is, that a game will die before it even starts getting built.
Right.
But if they hardline said tomorrow Control 2 comes out August 31st, 2027, I'd be there, because Control is amazing, and I think I'm excited. I can't wait. I hope they do more. Eventually I'll get to play Firebreak, but folks, I think that's all we have time for today. We'll see you again.